Hi, it's Leah from Invoke Spirit. Today is a musings video about preoccupations. That's really what I want to talk about. I want to muse about. When I tuned in today, the main message was about living, the spirit that you live your life with. That was the main thing. I mean, my business is called Invoke Spirit. The most common misconception and sometimes messages on occasion about how you can invoke some type of spirit into you. I'm not quite sure what they're asking me sometimes. Sometimes they just want to get rid of a spirit. Um, and every time I have to explain to them that my business or my services are not about that. Invoke Spirit is actually about invoking the joy, uh, the wonder, the blessings of living life, right? Invoking that spirit into your life. And so obviously with my business, there's a lot about health, because if you don't have health, then joy is hard to come by. Life can be very hard. Anyway, I'm digressing. So preoccupations. Um, the question is then that what are you preoccupied in life? What is your preoccupations in life? And are they aligned to how you actually want to be enjoying or experiencing your life? It's fine if it is, but a lot of the time it isn't. Uh, there is a requirement to be able to be aware of what your preoccupations are. And that's probably the hardest part here. It helps when you have other people that know you, or support people. You might have a healer or coach that helps reflect back to you certain preoccupations. And they won't always. Sometimes you need to give consent with that, because one of the things that does happen if you shock people, confuse people by pointing out something that they are unaware of, there can be a lot of defensiveness about that. There can be a lot of stuff that comes up. So the person does have to have a willingness to have our eyes open to see what those preoccupations are and how they might not be serving you. I am talking about preoccupations that aren't serving you, because obviously if you are aligned, if you feel like you are aligned to the way that you want to be living life, then yeah, keep going. There's nothing really to talk about with that. But most of us aren't. I will also preface here that it's not such a black and white thing. It's not such a like, oh, you definitely are, you aren't. There's all the shades of gray in between. I'm not talking about the book. There's not 50 shades, but I'm talking about there's a spectrum, there's a variety, right? So there most likely is aspects of you that are aligned, that have preoccupations that are aligned, and there most likely is that you are not aligned as well. And one of the gifts you can give yourself is to drop the delusion that you might be excessively one way or the other, and just accept that there's always more things that we're not seeing for ourselves. You get you get all types of personalities, but there are two types particularly that struggle the most with this awareness. One of them being excessively on how bad they are doing with life, or how everything that they do needs to be fixed. And then you've got the flip side of someone who's like, oh, there's nothing wrong. I'm doing everything perfectly and I'm completely aligned. And the reality is that it's a rare individual who is in those extremes in truth, and that we always have. There's more that we can discover and realize both in both sides. One, that realizing that we actually are doing things that are aligned to how we would love, and then there are things where we are knee deep in the preoccupation, in the illusion of our unconscious assumptions, our unconscious limited assumptions. And let me give an example here. Let me give an example more in a whole industry type sense, and then we might go individual. I can share for my own realizations in the last, I'm not sure, weeks, months. So societal, yeah, when we talk about healers, right? I love talking about healers and the progress for healers. In the holistic healing space, one of the limited preoccupations is that you need to improve your skill set more. You'll see that a lot. Most healers come in with this desire to help and be in service to others, and then they go, well, in order to achieve that, the limited preoccupation is I need to improve my skills more. Not all of them, a lot of them though. It's not necessarily a bad thing, actually. Improving your skills, learning, when you're working in more the holistic healing field, you do need to um, continually expand your understanding of health, but doesn't always have to happen through courses. Though courses are one of the safer ways to do that, because when you're working with clients, you're really coming to, it's not unusual for you to get a client where you're like, oh gosh, I deal with this, or I've dealt with lots of these type of symptoms or issues before, and then this person is different, or has something else, and then the normal things aren't working. And you always get someone like that, and then you go, okay, well, then the preoccupation goes, well, obviously I don't know enough, I'm not skilled enough, I need to learn more, I need to do another course, I need to learn another modality. It's not that the action is wrong, it's the preoccupation that is limiting. And you'll see that a lot. You'll see it in business. Obviously, the intention is to make money for service or products or whatever the business model is. And the most common preoccupation I see is, follow this exact formula in order to, make the next 6 or 7 figures. That's the most common thing I see. And it really drives me a bit insane when you go, I mean, how many ads have you seen, or if it comes up for you anyway, is like, follow this exact formula, follow my exact formula, my exact blueprint that got me to 6 to 7 figures, and it can for you too. And you hear it over and over again, and it starts to make me a bit resistant, or I switch off very quickly, because people are following formulas and they're no longer speaking from their heart, bringing in innovation, speaking from their heart or their understanding to your understanding, which is really the whole point of business, right? Understanding your market and serving them as they want and need is probably the best way to put it. So they're kind of more preoccupations that you see. Like there's so many more. Each industry or area will have preoccupations, right? And then when you go into an individual, say for myself, one preoccupation that I've noticed is this ever never ending list of things to do, to the point where it's like on the week I'm using weekends or my spare time to catch up, to get on top of this list. The irony is, if I really saw, and I have seen it, but I still do it, so I guess I haven't really fully seen it, is that, I do the list, I start checking through that list, getting things done, and then I add to the list, or I make a new list and then I add to it, so that there's just this constant excessive pile of things to do, to the point, which makes me feel good in the short term because I'm getting these things out of my head and making sure I'm not forgetting things and keeping on top of things. But then on the downside, I start to feel, the bigger the list is, the more overwhelmed I get, the more I feel like I'm falling behind. And there's this constant, that's when I started to really notice that this is my preoccupation, or has been my preoccupation, of always feeling like I'm behind. And when I think about my life and go, well, is that how I want to live my whole life? Feeling like I'm behind, that life is just a list of chores and tasks that I need to complete, and I can't really rest or feel any level of self-satisfaction or life satisfaction until I've completed these things. And if I don't complete them, if I go and enjoy myself, then looking at the list and go, okay, well, clearly, whatever guilt or possibly even shame of, oh, you haven't done them yet, have you been a bad girl or something. I probably don't think of it exactly like that, but it is the same energy. And so then when I have this preoccupation with this list of things that always has to be done, this ever-growing list, it kind of reminds me, have you seen those Greek myths of Hades, where like people have been given a punishment, and like they've got the grapes, they're thirsty and hungry, and the grapes that are always out of reach, or having to carry this rock up to the top of the hill to have it roll back down again, or all sorts of stories of that. And it feels like that. It's like the list that won't end, the list that won't ever be completed. It'll just be continuing, a pack of Tim Tams that never run out, like, but in a not so fun way, right? Um, and the real question is, do I want is it do I want to be living my life this way? It's not that I don't want to have, I like lists actually. So I like having a list and having things out of my mind so that I'm really clear. Um, and then also being able to move through and know that I'm progressing forward with certain projects or goals that I'm working on at this point in time. So it's not like I need to throw out the list, but it's how I actually operate with that list and how much that the list is no longer serving the purpose of what I'm needing, and instead fulfilling the limited preoccupations that I have, um, that I keep falling into for whatever reason, for a level of comfort, for just operating as the devil I know for as long as I can. And so then there's two aspects, I guess, now bringing it back. And, each person has their version of their preoccupations. I'll see different people, and some people will just want to do the next shiny thing in life. Other people will be constantly just filling up like squeezing into their life, all the things, so that they just can never relax. They've got to be productive. They've got to be useful in life. They've got to be contributing to society because that will make them worthwhile. I'll see it with people who you talk to them and they're groaning about um, the latest thing that they're doing, and it's something that they want to do, but then there's a problem in life, or um, they feel like how do I put it? They feel like they're being forced to do it. It isn't something that they actually desire or want. Um, and so then there's this kind of groaning and moaning. Another thing, like you finally get the thing that you want, and then the person finally gets the thing that they want, and then they're moaning and complaining about how every little thing is not to standard, or there's something else now that's wrong, so that they can't really enjoy this thing that they've spent months or years looking to achieve. These are these preoccupations that people have in life, and you can usually uh, categorize them. Maybe that's right. Categorize them into the personality types. Enneagram is a personal favorites, or one that I've learnt through my teachers, and a personal favorite just because of um, partially the simplicity, but also that archetypal nature that really easy to go, "Oh, I can see that energy or that type of archetypes coming through." But you might have other personality systems as well that exhibit that. And there is nothing wrong with exhibiting that occasionally or where the situation warrants it. But the thing is that you'll see it as an innate part of their personality, that everything now, that that way of operating, the way of speaking, the amount, the certain behaviors that will just happen in their life keep exhibiting back to that fixed way of being, and that's where they become limited. Their preoccupation is limited in life, and most of the time it will not align to actually what how they perceived or connected to what they wanted in the first place, the thing that they're looking to create, the thing they're looking to experience, the life that they want to be living doesn't actually align to that. And yet we pull the wool over. We're so used to being that way that we can't see it anymore. We can, if we probably most, we could see it in other people if we allow ourselves to, because there is a societal unspoken rule that you really can't tell people directly to the face the things that they're doing in a limited way. But if you really took the time to just observe and see, you would see it. You'd see certain people say the same sort of things, act the same sort of way, seem to have the same type of problems over and over again. And you can only, in the end, if there is a bit of a pattern going on, if it's ongoing, especially in a situation where nowadays we probably have more opportunity than we ever have had in the past. So many more opportunities now, so many more freedoms that we probably didn't have before because of unraveling societal constructs, um, more connection, innovation, um, more expansion that we have now in society. We probably have more opportunities now, and yet we still get stuck in the preoccupation and we live out the same story. And it's a little bit boring, like when you actually start to see it. When I used to get readings the first few times, it was like, oh, okay, wow, that's really interesting, or I really get the resonance of that. And then you start hearing the same things in readings, and it's not because they're it's not so much that they're just having a set thing and giving it to me. They're reading this boring, never-ending story that I am playing out over and over again, and clearly not like getting it, clearly not really, like I'll get it in the moment, but then really not getting it, not really using that to shift my life. So let's end this musings now. I think I've explored enough, maybe rambled. We'll see if that's another preoccupation. But so there are two parts. If you wanted to take this musing and see if there can be something that it can serve you for yourself, the first thing is to be able to see or become aware of what the preoccupations are. Because if you don't, without being able to see what you might be fixated on as a preoccupation, you no longer, like without that you don't have the freedom to choose otherwise, because you don't see what you don't start, you won't be able to see what you won't be open to see what your options are, because you can't see that this may be a misalignment or something that's not aligned. The ways that you might become aware of it, obviously one of the better ways is when you get outside, like you get enough outside feedback and you sort of see this common theme and you go, okay, others are really reflecting back. But if you don't have that opportunity, you might have to reflect by yourself. It's always a little bit harder to fully see it for yourselves, but it is possible. I've had some teachers say that it's impossible, but it's not. It's not fully impossible. It's harder though, and most likely less likely. So one thing is things that you say. You might have certain things that you tend to say. It helps if someone was walking around and recording, and then you start to see it, you're like, okay, but we don't all have that opportunity. But you might, usually it'll be when you speak aloud to other people, it actually will be constantly, there'll be a lot of that spoken in your head, but most of the time we kind of accept a lot of the rambling. There's a lot of junk thoughts that are happening in our head as well. So it's hard to dissect, it's hard to pull apart because of all the noise in here. And so it's when the things that you tend to say, you might notice that you said it to 3 or 4 different people over a period of time. Something that you speak aloud. It might be even the way that you say it. The things that you, so that's another one, like how you express to others. So these are kind of physical behaviors that you express to others, and you tend to focus and want to talk about it. Like you have some people that you talk to and they just want to talk work and goals and things they're creating and all this kind of achievements and becoming in the world. And you know that that's really their preoccupation. Other people will be talking about all this amazing the latest I'm going to say something like Dan Fangle. I don't even know if that's a word. The latest kind of coolest thing that's out there. Gotta let people know, gotta tell everyone because they're the in person who knows all the latest, coolest things that are coming out, the latest hacks and stuff. They're kind of different ways that you might express, or how constant complaining about something. That might be another way. Another way you might become aware is just how you fill up your days or fill up your spare time. That was my realization. Of course, I had something come at the beginning where I said, okay, I don't want to be, usually I enjoy my work, but I was starting to feel resentful. I felt this year things were building up too much. I had too much on and leading to stresses, and there was no reason for me to be stressed in that nobody was coming to me, pushing for me to meet a deadline. There was no kind of traumatic or conflicted interactions. I actually enjoyed with all the people I was working with in all the different areas. I was enjoying them all. So there was nothing I could put a blame on except that somehow my life had filled up. Somehow it allowed my life to be overly full. I actually don't think this is that new. I think I've been doing this for over a decade or more, but in this regard, I'd filled up with things that meant that the things that were most important to my heart were given the least priority. And I think that resentment started to show me that there was a stressor. And then I was like, okay, so then I want to be living my life where, I'm really experiencing the joy. And so then that would be my weekends if I had good boundaries with my work, and yet everything was spilling over into the weekends. So I really saw that my behaviors was that I was filling up my weekends with work, with tasks, with things I got to achieve, and always feeling like I'd finish the weekend um, without completing anything. So anyway, those are kind of the first step then is to be able to become aware of what your preoccupation is. And then the second step then would be how would you rather be? If I mean, if that is not a preoccupation that you don't want to be living a life where you're everyone is pathetic, everyone is not meeting his standards, or that you life is a series of constant tasks and chores that you've got to complete. If that's not the preoccupation that you want in life, then what is? How would you want life to be? What would you like your preoccupation? What's a more expansive preoccupation that you would like to have in life? And then you have options. Once you can get clearer in the type of life that you'd rather be preoccupied with or aligned with, then it'd be what's obvious with the type of things that you might be doing, the focus, the way you might speak in life, the things that you want to be expressing. And then you start to have options, then you can start to shift things. So anyway, would love to hear if there's anything particularly, like maybe there wasn't something directly about what I've said that sparked something, but maybe it led to some other thought pattern. Still would love to hear. Would also love to hear, I'm assuming that people do know to some extent their preoccupations, but they might not know them in their life. So if you feel like you actually do, or maybe it is different, I'd love to hear about that as well, because then that would help me adjust my perceptions or my preoccupations about how well, people that might be watching this or wanting to hear my opinions or thoughts, how they actually are, so that I could adjust, be more in service. So maybe you had a realization or anything really, I'd love to hear. So, put in the comments, or, most of you know where to find me if you want to DM me or something. So anyway, running out of battery now. Another preoccupation of energy. So anyway, love to hear from you and any other things that might be going on. See you soon. Bye.